up, guys? I'm Justin Davis of Drone Camps RC. I do all kinds of reviews on new stuff in our hobby: drones, helicopters, RC cars, airplanes, FPV wings, all kinds of really cool stuff. So if you want to subscribe to a channel that has a little bit of everything, this is the channel to subscribe to. We do some fun stuff here. So yeah, subscribe, get involved. This review is special to me because this is the version 2 of the Flywing RC FW450L. It was originally a concept for getting the beginners flying an RC heli. And I have to tell you, if you go back and look at some of the guys' reviews on the original one basically flies itself with this flight controller on here. It's the H1 flight controller, developed from Flywing RC, and they incorporated it into this heli with GPS. It originally had GPS and GLONASS on board. And what's so special about this one is that we're a couple years down the road from the original V1, which was also around the same price, around $500 for the ready to fly package. It's still cheaper than something like a T-Rex 450 Dominator, or some of the larger ones out there, like the 600 size helis. This one flies like a 500. So don't let the 450 size scare you. Originally, I started flying helis 20 years ago, and the 450 to me was notoriously squirrely. And with GPS positioning and altitude hold and position hold and all that on this system, it makes this guy totally locked in. So basically all you have to do is push the sticks forward, and this guy flies forward, straight stop. When you let go of the sticks, it stops in place and it maintains its position in the air. The positioning system on here is really actually kind of amazing. And mostly in part due to the new Galileo system that they've now incorporated into the version 2. I'm thinking that you could probably get this GPS if you had version 1 of the FW450 and install it on there. It should be the same plug. I suggest buying that right away. If you can get that part on Banggood, just go ahead. I'll try to find the link for it and put it down there, because this is now triple system on here, triple GPS positioning system, which means that originally GPS, developed by the United States in 1978, is on here. That one is accurate to about 5 to 7 meters, which, you know, it was a start. Russia came around and developed GLONASS, and that came in around the mid to early 90s. That one's, its position lock is down to about 4.7 meters in the air in a squared space. And the new Galileo system was developed by the European Union in the last 10 years. And it was final testing around 2016, and they got it ready for commercial use only in 2019 and 2020. It came around. So it's been around for about a year now for personal use. And this is great because it's now launched. And even though it's the youngest, it is the best. And it is accurate down to about 1 meter square, which is amazing for positioning systems on even something as small as a little RC heli. That is amazing. So yeah, this thing is extremely stable and very precise. And it came back and it landed for return to home very well. So, and all the maneuvers that you do with the different flight systems on here work flawless. And the best thing of all is that it's not so fiddly with the compass calibration on here. I was, often flying within a minute's time, and that's fantastic because the old one made me want to pull my hair out. And once you go to a field and you calibrate the compass once, it should let you go back and fly that same field without having to calibrate the compass again. It should turn green. Once the light goes green, you're good to take off. So without further ado, guys, let's go out and have an amazing time with the FW450L V2. And let me show you all the flight modes and all the crazy things that this heli can do. Hands off, I mean, it's amazing. Hands off flying, GPS positioning flying, full 3D flying, and a crazy auto invert switch. And the coolest thing about that is, guys, when it goes inverted, up is still up on the stick and down is still down. So original 3D helis, all that's reversed. So down is up, and up, they say, is expensive because you can slam dunk it into the ground if you press up. Now if you press up, when on this system, it will go up and down according to which way your stick is going. So that's cool. They reversed everything here for you and made it way easier to fly inverted. You could cut the grass with this one. compared to trying to fly a full 3D invert, because everything goes opposite. So yeah, it's amazing. Let's go outside now and let me show you how cool this thing is in the air. We'll come back into the studio. We'll do a little closer look at the body and all the physical upgrades, and we'll talk about a little bit about the positioning system as well. Here we go. All right, guys, we're gonna do a flight test with the new one, the 450L. Here we go. So we're hands off, keeping a little bit of an eye on the heli. Seems to be correct. Never take your eyes off a heli, even if it has positioning. Here we go. I really should probably have the canopy on there because it makes it easier to see. That yellow canopy is really nice. All right, let's try some forward flight. It's really windy. It's on 4S. Seems to have quite a bit more power than the original one with 3S, so this is kind of cool. Flip back into normal flight mode. I'm going to come back over here. It's hard to look at the transmitter and then look at the heli. Like if you take your eyes off the helicopter while you're flying it, it's really, really dangerous. This is nice because with position hold, now that I'm back into the normal flight mode in GPS mode, everything is hands off. So I just push the stick like kind of like a Phantom, like a DJI Phantom or a Mavic Pro, and I get forward flight. So let's try that inverted flight mode. And invert. There it goes. Now we're flying inverted. There we go. So you have to press the throttle stick all the way up and rise up for the invert button to work. So let's just bring it back over to us. Now I'm flying inverted like a pro here. I can even do some pirouettes here. I am in GPS mode, so this thing is basically flying itself. You'd never be able to do this with a standard 3D helicopter. But never take your eyes off this thing, like I'm doing. Now let's go the other way. I'm like a pro here until I crash. Get a little lower. And we're back into normal mode. That was pretty cool. So let's try the orbit mode. We're gonna switch into what's called O-Fly. Now it's gonna fly a nose in orbit. So hands off. Pretty cool. Now that it's done a full orbit, let's do a figure eight. Now it's going to go into figure eights. Hands off figure eight. I don't know why you'd want that, but it's kind of cool. Whatever. It would be cool if it had waypoints. So Flywing, if you're watching this review, which I'm sure you guys are, I'd love to have waypoints on this. Somehow. Maybe we integrate FPV to this and maybe the version 3 has a camera on it. Alright, there's a figure eight. So we're going to go back into normal flight now, and that's pretty much all the flight modes. It has GPS 3D, normal inverted flight, normal flight mode 0 mode, and figure 8 mode. And then you also have a bail, like a throttle cut right here, which you would never, ever flip this while you're flying the heli, because it'll drop to the ground if you flip stop. But that's what it's there for, in case you really get in trouble. Back in the old days, we had a throttle cut, and that's what we used. So let's go ahead and test out the return to home. We're gonna bring it out into the field now, and I'm gonna flip it into return to home. So I'm gonna get it way out there, you guys. And so far, so good with this. All right, here we go. Return to home on this heli. Let's see if it comes back. Hands off. The heli's going up to a specified height you can set in the software, and it's gonna come back to this spot right over here behind us in the parking lot. So here it comes. It's nose in. Wonder if I can turn the tail. I gotta make sure it doesn't hit this tree. All right, look how close to the tree it is. Check that out. Gotta make sure it doesn't hit this here. So it's getting pretty close. So check this out. Hands off. And we're gonna see if the motor turns itself off, like some of the DJI drones. So it's coming in, coming in, coming in, coming in, and kill it. That was awesome. How about that, you guys? That was freaking cool. All right, guys, welcome back from that awesome flight test. It's still in one piece, guys. I was flying it hands off. It did all the different flight modes without having a single hiccup, which is really cool. One thing I will tell you about normal and the invert switch here, before I get into all the new stuff on the V2 for you, is that when you want that to work, you need to go into the H1 software, hook up to the flight controller in the back. This is the H1 flight controller back here with the USB-C cable, and you have to activate this and say that you acknowledge that you know it's going to go inverted. There's a little disclaimer on that, and the copter does not come set up like that, so you have to go in and enable your normal and invert switch right here. So that's on the far right. These little gimbals right here don't do anything. And then we have stop and run on this switch. We also have normal and O-fly, what they call O-fly here. And we have 0 and 8 fly there, and that's your figure 8s. So we have orbit mode, we have figure 8 mode, and normal flight mode. So when you start up this heli, you're gonna start up, you're gonna let this heli set there for about 1 minute to 2 minutes, and then calibrate the compass. Once you calibrate the compass, you'll see the progress bar on your laptop going across. When it gets all the way across, it should go green on you, and then you can set the heli back down on the pavement and then re-plug in the battery and start it again, and then just let it sit there for 1 minute or 2 while it gets a green light on the flight controller. You'll see a green light on the H1 back here light up, and then you'll know you're good for takeoff. Now you want to start in normal mode. You want to switch this one from home down to GPS, and make sure that when you first turn on your heli, it's gonna beep at you that it wants all the switches up like you see them here. Once you get that past that prompt, go ahead and put it down in GPS, and then wait 1 minute or 2, and then you're gonna get a green light. Once you get a green light, you're good. So normal invert, you have to activate that in the software, and to get that to work, you actually have to be flying full up stick and on the way up, and then hit this as you're flying full stick, full throttle up. And then once it has a good altitude, it'll flip over. It might not actually flip over until it reaches a certain specified altitude inside the flight controller. So you can check that in the software. I don't know if that's an option yet, but that would be pretty cool. Because honestly, you probably wouldn't want to go inverted like 5 feet off the ground, because you may flip tail first into the ground. So there might be a bit of a safeguard there for that specified height, which is super cool. So also on this transmitter, guys, it is the same transmitter that we had before. This is a FlySky transmitter. It does not have any radio antenna coming off the top because it is actually internal. It has pretty nice gimbals on here. It feels good. It has 2 power switches. You press those simultaneously to turn it on. It wants all the switches up like that, and then it'll go ahead and come on. So now you see TX here, that's the transmitter battery level, the RX battery level, which is cool because it shows you how low your battery's getting, and it shows the fly mode here. and how far from the home point we are. It should also show you GPS satellite information on here as well. On the back, we have 2 other buttons, and it takes 4 AA batteries in the back for this helicopter. And you don't have to bind it up. If you were to choose to put on a different receiver, you could definitely bind up a new receiver to this radio, because this FlySky radio has several different various receivers that you can get for it. So it's very intuitive, and everything is labeled here out of the box, which really helps. That way you don't have to go and do it yourself, which is cool. So you also get a manual. This is the new one. They call it a smart heli. In a lot of ways, I feel like it is a smart heli. It tells you basic information in here. It's all in English, which is cool. And it tells you how to put the tail tube in, how to plug in the GPS, how to install the blades. The blades go on clockwise fashion. So most helis out there go on clockwise. So that means that this right side right here, this needs to be the leading edge, the fat side of the blade needs to be rotating to the left here. Okay, and then the back, the blade right behind that, this blade also needs to be facing that direction too. So it's going to actually rotate right, rotate to the right, rotate like this. So it will be clockwise. I say going left this way, but then it comes around to the right. So clockwise fashion. And everything is simplified in the head. The head is all metal. We also have a fiberglass canopy, which I really, really love. That reminds me of my old T-Rex 500. Doesn't that look like a T-Rex 500 from back in like 2006? It has that same yellow and black. I believe they used to have like lightning bolts down the side of it or something, but the airbrush looks really good on here. It looks nice. They have decals on the side for FW450, which looks cool. And I'm glad that this is not a plastic canopy. It's kind of an old school fiberglass canopy. Really, look, they just look better than the plastic ones in my opinion. So that's kind of legit to the heli community. But this heli, for me, I wouldn't say this is really a heli that someone in the heli community might buy because they want to 3D this. This is more of a helicopter you buy because you want to enjoy some stress-free flying. So, I mean stress-free because you have GPS return to home on there. And now we have what they call Omni GPS on there, meaning 3 different GPS systems. We've got a 4S battery upgrade on this one as well. So now we have a pretty big battery. I believe it was a 3S2200 I was running on the version 1. So now we're up to a 4S 4450 milliamp battery. And this is nice. This gives us a nice long flight time. I believe I can get 13 minutes out of this battery, which is really great. And we have an upgraded ESC on here. This is a 60 amp ESC. I also love that they give us carbon fiber blades in this box, and you also get a 4S charger. It does a 3 and a 4S battery. So the ESC is actually really cool. It is a dual output ESC. So in the very back where the tail plugs in, the ESC has this what looks like an XT30, but it's actually 3 wires going into this connector. So off the main motor, this is the main motor plug going back here, and then there's another one that plugs into the tail, which also is powered from the main battery. But 2 input here. We have dual input. We have the XT60 battery input, and we have the main rotor here. So main motor, and in the very back we have the tail. And the tail has a signal wire on it as well to be able to control the 2205 motor back here. And this is very similar to a typical standard FPV race quad motor. This is a 5-inch prop on here. It's a bi-blade prop with the same type of bolt that goes on your FPV race quad. So if you already have that same wrench, you can take this bolt on and off, and the prop faces to the left here. So it will change direction and go back and forth and cause you to turn the nose left or turn the nose right. So that's a very decent setup, but not one that I would trust for full crazy Nick Maxwell style 3D. It is a Sunny Sky motor too though, so that's nice. They also upgraded the tail. The tail is more robust now, and along with the 3-position GPS, this tail is a lot more robust. So they've done a lot. They've upgraded the tail motor, they've upgraded the main motor, they've upgraded the 60 amp ESC. We have a carbon tail fin back here as well. And this tail on this heli reminds me of some of the newer tails. On a lot of the helis lately, I've seen a lot of beefed up tails, and I guess it's because we want more authority out of the motor. We want more durable tail. Years past, man, I've really folded up and broke some tails. So that's the first thing that breaks. A tail and the blades you're always dealing with helis. One of the biggest the pains about helis. But that also helps put the GPS on top as well. So you have a flat spot here to mount the GPS to. But this is actually screwed down. I believe it's screwed down into this tail boom, which is really nice. You also have a tail block back here that supports the H1 above here and the tail boom itself. So this tail block came originally with a thumb screw that basically can tighten without a tool, which was really nice. It was a little red lever here and it spun all the way around. And the problem was that with mine, I turned mine just a quarter turn more and it broke the bolt inside this tail block right here. That's unfortunate. I had to pull the old bolt out and now I couldn't use it. I had to find another bolt to put through here. So they always tell you in our hobby, never over tighten things, and you want to be super careful when you're tightening up this tail. When you see this, there's a little crease right here on the back of this tail block. You might be able to see it. You see that little tiny crease? It's just right here, and you'll see it close up when you turn that thumb screw and just stop when it gets tight, because if you over tighten it, that bolt will break. It's not threaded through here, but the threading starts down in this part. So I was able to get the bolt out, which is really good news because nobody wants to fly a heli when the tail might fly off. One of the most important parts of the heli to be tight is the tail block, as well as all the links in the head and everything. You want to go through all these links on top of the head and make sure that everything is well snapped on. When I pulled mine out of the box, one of these top links, which go to the main rotor blades right here, that one of them was popped off. If I'd have tried to spool up like that, it would have been a big problem. So be careful with that. We also have a FlySky receiver down here, and this is an FSIA 6B receiver. You could fly an airplane with this receiver. It has actually it has two antennas on here, which is nice. It does have a pretty long range on it. I mean, I would say 1,000 meters or more. You can get way out there with this receiver. And I would take a little dab of hot glue and just put on there, because helis have high vibration in the frame. And if that little servo lead comes out, you lose signal back to your radio. The good thing about this heli is that we do have a flight controller on here. So if it loses signal from the radio, it's actually going to go into fail-safe mode and it's going to return to home. And this heli is going to right itself, turn around, and fly nose back to the home point and come in and land. So that's really nice. So we have a lot of nice upgrades on here. We have the tail upgraded, three different types of GPS on this new one for the GPS positioning system. We have the H1 light on here, which is great. That one didn't give me any problems. It has software support, and now we have an upgraded ESC, 60 amp ESC here, and the motor's also been updated as well. So we're just gonna double check on the motor for you. The main rotor diameter is 810 millimeter, and the flying weight without the battery is 768 grams. So depending on where you live around the world, that's something to think about there. Now, the main motor is a 2816. That's a BLDC motor. And then the tail drive is also BLDC, it says. And that is a brushless motor. Well, for both of those. I kind of like to see a torque tube version of this come out, or maybe even a larger version of this one. I'd like to see a 500, 600, or 700 come out. They also upgraded and made wider the landing gear. So these landing gear are wider than the original ones, which is going to help for your landings, especially for those GPS assisted return to home landings. Very important. But what I thought was pretty impressive too was the fact that when this one comes in for return to home situation, it comes in, levels out, lands, and then turns off the power system and slowly spools down. So When it came in and landed, it didn't do a lot of teeter-tottering back and forth, which was really good to see. I was afraid, sometimes I'm afraid that the flight controller can kind of tweak out and flip over on the ground. Years ago, when we were flying a lot of flybarless flight controllers, I would do an auto rotation in instead of landing with power, because it would come back in. If you had power in the motor, sometimes the flight controller would trip out and throw the heli to the ground and break a blade. Because what happened was the accelerometer on here, the stabilization, there's a little bit of assisted stabilization with some of the Beast X and other flight controllers that they've had on helis for years. And that gyro, the accelerometer and gyro were so sensitive that it would freak out, momentarily freak out, and then you'd have broken blades. So that was a thing. So now with this system, that's not a thing, and it's not freaking out and tipping over. I am also happy to see that they did update this motor. This is a better motor than what we had last time. Last one was a 12-volt 3S motor, up to 3S only. Don't try to plug in a 4S battery to that 2200 motor. The old one won't handle 4S. The new one, the 2816, is a 16-volt motor, and it can handle that. And it just looks much bigger there. And again, everything is all metal up in here, which is really cool. You got a metal motor block here mounting that motor, and you've got carbon fiber tray up top for the ESC. And I'm glad to see that they chose to do a bigger ESC than something like 30 amp, which makes a huge difference. And I do like the new head on this one as well. It seems pretty nice and robust. But guys, if you want to check this one out in the link down below, you can definitely do that. They're shipping all around the world. And if you want to learn how to fly helicopters, this is a kind of a foolproof, easy way to get into helis and have a little bit of a position assistance as well, and return home if you have signal loss, or if you just get kind of confused and you want to have it come back and land, you can do that. I know guys that fly drones, and every single time they fly home, they hit return to home, which, I don't agree with, but I think you should definitely learn how to manually fly it back and land it yourself. And even try to do that in the 3D mode. Come back in, get about a foot off the ground, and flip the stop switch and have it auto rotate. Just push up momentarily on the left stick. You want to practice that in the grass so you don't break your landing gear, and you could still break your landing gear, but that's one of the things that you want to strive to in RC heli flying, is learning how to auto rotate land. A lot of the pros do it every single time they land, and even just guys at the AMA fields, they like to auto rotate. This looks cool, and most importantly, it takes the power out of the motor system, and you don't end up stripping your belt as easily when you touch the skids down to the ground with power. So that's something really important to learn, and I just think it's cool. It looks neat, and I love hearing the power come out and then just kind of feathering the blades down to the ground. It's super fun. So yeah, a new robust version of the FW450. It's 2 thumbs up from me, and great work from the guys over at Flywing RC. I really like that company, and I think they're onto something here with these kind of automated flight controller systems like the H1 and the H1 Lite for heli flying. It makes it so much easier in 2021 to just go out and start flying an RC heli. Unlike 10, 15 years ago, things have really changed. They also make 2 other versions of helis with this flight controller, and then they have a Bell scale helicopter if you want something that looks like the old school Bell heli, and they also have a UH-1 Iroquois Army helicopter, which I would love to have. It has 4 blades up top. So Flywing, if you're listening to this review, guys, send me the Army one. I would love to fly that one, and I might keep that one forever in my garage. So I love the scale stuff too. But yeah, this is kind of 3D style. So there's a few different looks out there for RC helis. But thanks again for watching my channel, guys. I really appreciate you guys hanging out and finding out new information on all this stuff that comes out in our hobby. It's so much fun to be involved with it. So I want to thank you guys for participating and subscribing. Make your comment down below, subscribe, and get entered in for that Ishi Novice 4 coming up on the channel. Giving that away in like a couple days now. So get in on that. We're also going to announce what's coming up for August. We're going to give away something super, super cool in August. So stay tuned, guys. I'm Justin Davis. I'll see you on the next one. Give me a like down there in the like button. Bye-bye.